I have been a judge for over 40 years. In that time, I've seen everything from people suing over a half-eaten sandwich to disputes over multi-million-dollar estates. But if there is one thing that consistently makes my blood boil, it's roommates who think they can use the chaos of a move-out to commit a little casual larceny. People think that because things are messy and boxes are everywhere, they can just forget to pack someone else's property into the right truck. Or worse, they think a missing item will just be chalked up to the stress of the move. Not in my courtroom. I walk into the room, the robe heavy on my shoulders, but my mind is light and sharp. Bird announces the case. I take my seat, look down at the papers, and I already see the red flags. The plaintiff is Marcus Thorne. He's young, dressed in a suit that's a little too big for him, looking like he's trying very hard to be taken seriously. Across from him is Leo Rossi. Leo is wearing a hoodie and has that look, the look of someone who thinks he's the smartest person in the room but hasn't realized everyone else can see his cards. Mr. Thorne, I start leaning forward. I don't like to waste time on pleasantries. You are suing your former roommate, Mr. Rossi, for $5,000, the maximum I can give you here for the value of a vintage. $1,958 Patek Philippe watch that you claim disappeared on the day you both moved out of your shared apartment. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Marcus says, his voice a bit thin. It was my grandfather's. It's been in my family for 3 generations. It's not just the money, it's the history. I hold up a hand. Save the violins for someone who cares about your feelings, Mr. Thorne. I care about facts. Do you have an appraisal for this watch? Because if you're asking for $5,000, I need to know it's worth at least that much. Marcus quickly pulls a paper from his folder. Bird brings it to me. I scan it. It's a formal appraisal from a reputable jeweler. $15,000. I look at Marcus over my glasses. You're telling me you had a $15,000 watch sitting in an apartment you shared with this guy? I point a thumb at Leo. It was in my bedside table, Your Honor, Marcus explains. In a locked box. I turn my gaze to Leo. He's already shaking his head, looking at the ceiling like he's bored. Mr. Rossi, stop looking at the tiles. They haven't changed since you walked in. Look at me. Did you know about this watch? I knew he had a watch, Judge, Leo says, his voice a slow, practiced drawl. I didn't know it was worth 15 grand. He's always exaggerating everything. He probably lost it himself and wants me to pay for his new life in the suburbs. Don't tell me what he probably did, I snap. Tell me about the move. The move took place on June 15th. You were both moving out on the same day, correct? They both nod. Now, Mr. Thorne, I say, walk me through the afternoon. When was the last time you actually saw the watch? Marcus takes a breath. It was about 10 a.m. I was packing my bedroom. I checked the box to make sure the watch was there. It was. I locked the box and put it in a larger crate labeled valuables. Then my movers arrived, and things got hectic. I had to go downstairs to help them navigate the freight elevator. I left the crate in my room. And where was Mr. Rossi? He was in the living room packing his kitchen stuff, but the bedroom door was open. I look at Leo. Mr. Rossi, did you go into his bedroom while he was downstairs? No, Your Honor. I was busy. I had my own stuff to worry about. Bird, give me the police report, I say. I read through the document. Marcus filed the report 3 hours after the move ended. That's good. It shows immediate action. I look back at Leo. Mr. Rossi, the police report says that when the officers questioned you that evening, you told them you hadn't even been in the apartment during the window of time Mr. Thorne was downstairs. You told them you had gone to get pizza. Is that true? Leo stammers. Yeah, I went to get pizza. I was gone for like 20 minutes. 20 minutes? I lean in. Mr. Thorne says he was downstairs for 45 minutes because the freight elevator got stuck. If you were only gone for 20, that leaves 25 minutes where you were in that apartment alone. What were you doing? I was in the bathroom. I was cleaning. Cleaning? A second ago you were packing. Now you're a maid. Which is it? I don't give him time to answer. And did you bring the pizza back? No. I ate it there. So you went to a pizza place, sat down, ate, and came back, all in 20 minutes, while also finding time to clean the bathroom? I look at him with pure disdain. Do I look like I started this job yesterday, Mr. Rossi? If you're going to lie to me, at least make it a good one. Don't give me this amateur hour nonsense. I turned back to Marcus. Who else had access to the apartment? Did the movers go into the bedroom? Only the lead mover, Your Honor. But I was with him when he picked up the crates. When we got to the valuables crate, it felt lighter. I opened it right there. The locked box was gone. Just gone. And did you confront Mr. Rossi right then? I did. I yelled for him, but he wasn't there. He'd left. He didn't come back for 2 hours, even though we were supposed to do a final walkthrough with the landlord at 4 p.m. I turned back to Leo. Where were you for those 2 hours, Mr. Rossi? Still eating that pizza? Was it a 20-course meal? I had to run errands. I had to drop off my keys at my new place. Without doing the walkthrough? Without saying goodbye to your roommate of 3 years? I shake my head. Something doesn't smell right here, and it isn't the pizza. Mr. Thorne, do you have any other evidence? Texts? Emails? Marcus hands a stack of papers to Bird. These are texts from 2 weeks before the move. Leo was behind on his share of the utility bills. He owed me $800. I scanned the texts. Hey, man, I'm short this month. I'll get it to you after the move. Don't worry, I've got a big payday coming. I look at Leo. What was the big payday, Mr. Rossi? Did you win the lottery? Did a long-lost uncle leave you a fortune? I was expecting a bonus at work, Leo says, but his eyes are darting toward the exit. And did you get that bonus? No, it got pushed back. Funny how that works. You're broke, you owe your roommate money, a $15,000 watch disappears while you're alone in the apartment, and you suddenly have a big payday coming. I let the silence hang in the room for a moment. I want him to feel the walls closing in. Tell me, Mr. Rossi, what do you do for a living? I work in sales. Electronics. So you know how to move merchandise. You know people who buy things. You know the value of high-end items. I don't know anything about watches, he shouts. You don't need to know about watches to know that a Patek Philippe is worth more than your car, I retort. I look at the papers again. There's something else. A statement from the landlord. The landlord says that when he did the walkthrough, the one you skipped, he found a small, empty, velvet-lined box in the trash chute in the hallway. Mr. Thorne, is this your box? Bird shows a photo of a small black box. Yes, Your Honor. That's the box the watch was in. I look at Leo. The trash chute is right outside your bedroom door, Mr. Rossi. Convenient, isn't it? You take the watch, you dump the box so it's not on your person, and you head out for your pizza. Only you didn't realize the landlord would be checking the chute for a clog that same afternoon. You can't prove I put that there. Leo is getting loud now. That's a mistake. When people lose the argument, they start to shout. I don't need a video of you doing it, Mr. Rossi. I have circumstantial evidence that's as thick as a steak. You had motive, you were broke. You had opportunity, you were alone. And you have no alibi that makes a lick of sense. I lean back. I'm not done yet. I want to know if that watch has hit a pawn shop. Mr. Thorne, did the police check the local pawn databases? They did, Your Honor. Nothing has turned up yet. But the detective told me that if it was sold to a private collector or under the table, it wouldn't show up in the system. I look at Leo. He looks a little too relieved at that piece of information. You think you're home free because it hasn't popped up in a shop, don't you? I say, but here's the problem for you. This is a civil court. I don't need beyond a reasonable doubt. I just need to know that it is more likely than not that you took that watch. And right now it's looking about 99% likely. That's not fair, Leo yells. Life isn't fair, Mr. Rossi. And it's especially not fair to Mr. Thorne, who lost a family heirloom because he trusted a snake like you to live in his house. Bird, give me those bank statements again. I want to see Mr. Rossi's deposits for the week after the move. I flip through the pages. I see a deposit on June 18th, $3,000, cash. Mr. Rossi, I say, my voice dropping to a whisper that carries more weight than a scream. Explain this $3,000 cash deposit 3 days after the watch went missing. He turns white. The smirk is gone. The bravado is gone. He looks like a man who just realized he's standing on a trap door. I sold my motorcycle, he stammers. Do you have a bill of sale? No, it was a cash deal to a guy I met on Craigslist. A guy? Does this guy have a name, a phone number, a soul? I don't remember. I slam my hand on the bench. The sound echoes like a gunshot. You don't remember who you sold a motorcycle to for $3,000? You're lying. You're lying to me. You lied to the police, and you're probably lying to your mother. There was no motorcycle. You sold that watch, you took the $3,000 as a quick sale price, and you thought you were a genius. I can see the sweat on his forehead. This is the moment where the truth finally catches up to the lie. It's my favorite part of the day. I didn't take it, he says, but his voice is gone. He knows I've got him. You're a thief, Mr. Rossi, and not a very good one. You left a trail of breadcrumbs that a blind duck could follow. I look at Marcus. He looks like a weight has been lifted. Mr. Thorne, you're suing for $5,000. That doesn't even cover the value of the watch, but it's the most I can give you. I reach for my pen. I'm ready to sign the judgment. But then something catches my eye in the defendant's file. A second bank statement. This one is from a month later. Another deposit. $2,000. Wait a minute, I say. I look at Leo. What was this $2,000 for? Another motorcycle, a moped, a tricycle? Leo doesn't answer. He's looking at the floor. Bird, I say. Call the detective on the police report. I want to know if they've checked the online luxury watch forums. Because $3,000 is a low price for a Patek. Someone who knows what they're doing would go back for more. The room is silent. You could hear a pin drop. Leo is shaking. He knows I'm not just going to give Marcus the money. I'm going to make sure the police have everything they need to turn this civil case into a criminal one. You're a greedy one, aren't you, Leo, I say. You couldn't just take the first payment. You had to go back for a second helping. I look at the clock. I've heard enough. The story is complete, the lie is exposed, and the truth is sitting right there, ugly and undeniable. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, I announce. The gavel hits, and Mr. Rossi, don't think this is over. I'm sending these bank statements to the precinct. You won't just be paying for the watch, you'll be wearing a suit that matches your personality, orange. We're done, I shout. Bird steps toward Leo. Marcus looks at me, nodding in silent thanks. I give him a sharp nod back. Next case, I watch Leo as the weight of the judgment sinks in. He's standing there, his mouth slightly open, looking like a fish that's just realized it's out of the water and the frying pan is heating up. He tries to speak, his hands shaking as he grips the edge of the podium. Judge, you can't do this. I have a countersuit. You haven't even looked at my countersuit. I lean back and let out a short, dry laugh. Oh, I've looked at it, Mr. Rossi. I looked at it while you were spinning that ridiculous yarn about a Craigslist motorcycle sale. You're suing Mr. Thorne for $3,000 for defamation of character and loss of reputation because he told your new landlord that you were a person of interest in a grand larceny investigation. Is that your big claim? Yes, he shouts, gaining a bit of his misplaced confidence back. He ruined my life. My new landlord is threatening to evict me because of what Marcus said. I have a right to my privacy. You have a right to remain silent, which is something you should have exercised about 10 minutes ago. I snap. Let me explain the law to you. Since you clearly spent your school years daydreaming about how to pawn other people's property, defamation requires a false statement of fact. Was Marcus lying when he said you were a person of interest in a police investigation? Well, no, but nothing. If the police questioned you, and if there's a case number with your name on it, then the statement is true. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation, You don't get to sue someone for telling the truth about your shady behavior. And as for your reputation, Mr. Rossi, you're the one who tarnished it. You don't get to set your own house on fire and then sue the neighbor for pointing out the smoke. I turn to Marcus. Mr. Thorne, did you contact his new landlord? I did, Your Honor. Marcus says, standing tall now. I knew where he was moving because I saw the address on one of his boxes. I felt it was my responsibility to let them know who was moving into their building. I didn't want anyone else to lose something they can't replace, and you were well within your rights to do so, I say. In fact, I'd call it a public service. Mr. Rossi, your countersuit is dismissed with prejudice. It's frivolous, it's petty, and it's a waste of the paper it's printed on. Leo slams his hand down on the podium. This is a kangaroo court. You've already decided I'm guilty. Bird, I bark. Bird moves in closer, his hand resting near his belt. The room goes dead quiet. I stare at Leo until he lowers his gaze. Mr. Rossi, you are in a court of law. If you want to throw a temper tantrum, go to a preschool. If you want to insult this bench, I will have you hauled out of here in handcuffs, and you can spend the night in a cell thinking about your manners. Do I make myself clear? He mumbles a, yes, Your Honor. I can't hear you. Speak up. Yes, Your Honor, he bellows, his face turning a deep shade of purple. Better. Now, let's talk about the rest of the money. Mr. Thorne, you also mentioned $800 in unpaid utilities. Do you have the bills? Marcus hands another folder to Bird. I scan the documents. Electric, water, internet, all in Marcus's name, all showing a balance that hasn't been touched in 3 months. I look at Leo. Did you live there during April, May, and June? Yeah. Did you use the lights? Did you take a shower? Did you use the Wi-Fi to post your fake motorcycle ads? The audience titters. I don't. I'm looking for a reason to increase the judgment. I paid him in cash, Leo claims. Do you have a receipt? No, we're friends. We didn't do receipts. Well, you aren't friends anymore, and no receipt means didn't happen in my world. If you pay someone $800 in cash, you get a piece of paper that says so. Even a toddler knows that if you give someone your lunch money, you make sure they don't come back for seconds. Without a receipt, you owe the money. That brings the total to $5,800. Since my jurisdiction is capped at $5,000, I'm awarding the full $5,000 to Mr. Thorne. Consider the extra $800 a gift from the court, because you're lucky I can't take your shoes too. I look at Marcus. He looks satisfied, but there's a sadness in his eyes that I recognize. It's the look of someone who has realized that money doesn't replace memories. Mr. Thorne, I say, my voice softening just a fraction. I know $5,000 doesn't bring back your grandfather's watch. It's a tragedy when people treat sentiment like a commodity. But you've done everything right. You stood up for yourself, you gathered your evidence, and you didn't let this man bully you into silence. Thank you, Your Honor, Marcus says quietly. Now, Mr. Rossi, I say, turning back to the thief, I want to know about that $3,000 deposit again. You said it was a motorcycle. What kind of motorcycle? A Yamaha, Leo says, hesitating. What year? Launchen Lingishawu. And you sold a 2015 Yamaha for $3,000? That's about half its market value. Why were you in such a rush to get rid of it? I needed the money for the move. Or you needed to wash the cash from the watch sale as quickly as possible. Tell me, Mr. Rossi, did you ever think about the fact that the watch has a serial number? Patek Philippe keeps records? That watch is flagged now. Whoever you sold it to, that private collector or friend, is eventually going to try to get it serviced. And when they do, the police will be waiting. And they'll lead the police right back to you. Leo's eyes go wide. He clearly hadn't thought that far ahead. Criminals never do. They think about the next 10 minutes, not the next 10 years. I'm going to make this very simple for you. I continue. If that watch magically reappears in the next 48 hours, if it's dropped off at a police station or returned to Mr. Thorne's lawyer, I might be inclined to tell the district attorney that you showed a moment of late-blooming integrity, but if it doesn't, I will personally call the precinct and ensure they have every page of your bank statements and every transcript of your lies in this courtroom. Do you understand your options? Leo doesn't say a word. He looks like he's about to faint. I asked you a question, Mr. Rossi. Do you understand? Yes, he whispers. Good. Bird, escort them out. I'm done with them. I watch them walk out. Marcus walks with his head high. Leo slinks out like a beaten dog. I know I won't see that watch again, but I've made sure that Leo Rossi's life is going to be very, very difficult for a long time. Justice isn't always about getting back what you lost. Sometimes it's just about making sure the person who took it doesn't get to enjoy the spoils. I take a sip of my water. My throat is dry. It's a lot of work, stripping away the layers of nonsense these people wrap themselves in. They come in here thinking they can charm me or confuse me with a flurry of half-truths. They forget that I've spent my life looking into the eyes of liars. I can see a lie before it even leaves a person's mouth. It's in the way they shift their feet, the way they look at the ceiling, the way they use too many words to describe a simple event. I closed the Thorne Rossi file with a satisfying thud. Bird, give me a minute before the next one. I need to clear the air. It's thick with desperation in here. Bird nods. He's been with me long enough to know when I need a breather. I lean back in my chair and look out at the gallery. People are sitting there, some nervous, some arrogant, all waiting for their turn in the spotlight. They think being on television is a game. They don't realize that I am the final word. When they walk out of those doors, their lives are changed. Their bank accounts are different. Their credit scores are affected, and their secrets are out in the open. I don't take that responsibility lightly. That's why I'm tough. That's why I don't have time for maybes and could-haves. In this room, you are either right or you are wrong. There is no middle ground. I straighten my collar and look at the next file on the stack. All right, Bird, let's go. Who's next in the parade of the misguided? Case 415, Your Honor. Bird announces a dispute over a haunted antique mirror. I stop. I look at Bird. A haunted mirror? That's what the paperwork says. Judge, I sigh and rub my eyes. I need a vacation. A long one. Somewhere with no mirrors, no roommates, and definitely no Patek Philippes. Bring them in, I say, the gavel resting in my hand. Let's see if the ghost has a receipt. The doors swing open. Here we go again. 1,000 down, 4,000 to go, and I'm just getting started. I see the next two litigants walking toward the podium. A woman in a velvet cloak, yes, a cloak, and a man who looks like he's regretting every decision he's ever made. I can already feel the headache forming behind my eyes. Madam, I say, as the woman reaches the bench, before you say a word, let's get one thing straight. This is a court of law. We deal in physical evidence, contracts, and logic. If you start talking about ectoplasm or spirits, I'm going to send you straight to a psychiatrist. Do we have an understanding? She looks at me with wide, mysterious eyes. The mirror holds a dark energy, Your Honor. I stare at her. The only dark energy in this room is coming from my mood. Now, tell me about the contract. I don't get paid enough for this. But then again, I'm the only one who can do it. Because in a world full of ghosts and thieves, someone has to be the voice of reason. And that voice is mine. I look at the man. Sir, why did you sell this woman a haunted mirror? And more importantly, why did you think she'd actually pay for it? I just wanted it out of my house, Judge, he says, his voice cracking. She said she was a paranormal investigator. She signed a sold as is agreement. I hold out my hand. Bird, the agreement. Let's see if haunted is a legally binding condition. I scan the paper. It's a mess of handwritten scribbles. I can feel a rant coming on. It's going to be a long afternoon. But as I always say, if it doesn't make sense, it isn't true. And a haunted mirror doesn't make a lick of sense. Next, I shout, even though they're standing right in front of me. Let's get to the truth, if there's any left in the building. I look at this woman, Miss Serafina, who is currently clutching a crystal pendulum over the defense table. I feel a headache throbbing behind my eyes. This is what happens when people have too much time and not enough common sense. They start seeing demons in their furniture and expecting the government to subsidize their superstitions. Put that away, I bark, pointing at the swinging crystal. This is a courtroom, not a seance. You want to talk to spirits? Go to a graveyard on your own time. You're here because you're suing Mr. Miller for $3,000 for the return of your purchase price for a haunted Victorian mirror. Mr. Miller, you're countersuing for $2,000 for defamation because she posted on a paranormal forum that you sold her a portal to hell. Is that the gist of this lunacy? It's not lunacy, Your Honor, Serafina cries, her cloak swishing as she gestures wildly. The mirror is cold to the touch. It whispers at night. My cat, Barnaby, not the goat, from the previous case, mind you. Just a cat won't even enter the hallway where it's hanging. Maybe your cat is the only one in your house with a functioning brain, I retort. I turn to Mr. Miller. Sir, did you represent this mirror as being haunted when you sold it to her? Did you put ghost included in the Craigslist ad? No, Judge, Miller says, looking like he hasn't slept in weeks. I just said it was a 19th century mahogany mirror. I inherited it from my aunt. I sold it to her for $3,000. She came to my house, inspected it for an hour, and handed me the cash. 2 days later, she's calling me at 4 a.m. screaming about shadow people. I hold out my hand, barred, the bill of sale. I look at the paper. It's a simple handwritten receipt, sold to Serafina, one antique mirror, $3,000, as is. Miss Serafina, I say, leaning over the bench. Do you see these two words right here? As is. Do you know what they mean in a court of law? It means that if you buy a mirror and it turns out to be a portal to another dimension, a gateway for demons, or even if it just has a scratch on the frame, it's yours. You bought it. You own it. You own the mirror. You own the mahogany, and you own whatever imaginary shadow people you think are living in the glass. But it's defective, she insists. It doesn't reflect accurately. It makes me look gray. Maybe that's just the lighting in your house. Or maybe it's the fact that you're wearing a velvet cloak in the middle of July. I say, there is no such thing as a defective ghost. A ghost is not a mechanical part. It is not a breach of warranty. You bought an antique. If you don't like the energy, sell it to another person who shares your delusions. But you don't get your money back from Mr. Miller. I turn to the countersuit. Mr. Miller, as for your defamation claim, did you lose any business because of her posts on the Spooky Stuff forum? Well, no, Judge. I'm an accountant. None of my clients even know what that forum is. Then you don't have a case for defamation. You have a case for being annoyed. And unfortunately, annoyance doesn't have a dollar value in my court. Both cases are dismissed. Get that mirror out of here. And Miss Serafina, if the shadow people start talking again, tell them I said, shut up. I slam the gavel. One more piece of nonsense cleared out of the way. I watch them leave. Miller looks relieved. Serafina looks like she's about to cast a spell on me. Let her try. I've survived 40 years of New York City litigants. A velvet-clad psychic is the least of my worries. Next case, I shout. I look at the file. Case 416, Vanessa versus Derek, a classic family feud. Sister suing brother. The claim is for $4,500, the value of a 2018 Toyota Corolla that was totaled in Walk the Siblings. Vanessa is in her late 20s, looking professional and tired. Derek is younger, early 20s, wearing a backwards baseball cap and a smirk that I want to slap off his face the moment I see it. Vanessa, I start skipping the preamble. You're suing your brother for the value of your car. You say you lent it to him for a weekend and he brought it back in a cube. Derek, you say it wasn't your fault because the road was slippery. Let's get to the truth. Judge Vanessa says, her voice trembling, I was trying to help him. He lost his job, his car was repossessed, and he needed a way to get to a job interview on Monday. I told him he could use my car for the weekend only to go to the grocery store and prep for his interview. Instead, he drove 3 hours away to a music festival. I look at Derek. A music festival? Was the job interview at the festival, Derek? Were you auditioning to be a roadie? No, Judge. I just thought I needed to clear my head before the big day. Clear your head? With my car? Vanessa interjects. I'm talking. I bark at her, then turn back to Derek. So you took a car that was lent to you for a specific, limited purpose, and you drove it 600 miles round trip to a festival. Did you have her permission to go to this festival? She didn't specifically say I couldn't go. Derek says, with a shrug that infuriates me, don't play word games with me, young man. I'm too old and too smart for it. When someone says you can use my car to go to the store, the no for everything else is implied. You don't get a yes for a road trip just because she didn't provide an itemized list of every place on earth you weren't allowed to go. Did you crash the car? The rain was crazy, Your Honor. I hydroplaned. It could have happened to anyone. Did it happen to Vanessa? No. It happened to you while you were where you weren't supposed to be. Do you have insurance? I was on her policy, Derek says. No, he wasn't, Vanessa shouts. I took him off 6 months ago after he got his third speeding ticket. I told him he wasn't covered. I have the text message right here. Bard brings me the phone. I read the text. Derek, I'm letting you use the car for the interview, but remember you aren't on my insurance anymore. If anything happens, you are 100% responsible. Do you understand? Derek's reply. Yeah, cool. I got you. I look at Derek. Yeah, cool. I got you. Is that what you told her? I thought I was still covered under permissive use. Derek stammers. Permissive use doesn't apply when you're in direct violation of the owner's instructions and you've been explicitly told, you aren't insured! I scream. You totaled her car. The insurance company denied the claim because you were an excluded driver on a non-authorized trip. Now she has no car and a $4,000 loan still sitting on her head. How do you plan to pay her back? I don't have any money, Judge. I didn't get the job. Of course you didn't get the job. You were probably too busy clearing your head at a festival to show up for the interview. Derek, you're a loser. You're a taker. You take from your sister, you take from the insurance company, and you take from my patients. I turn to Vanessa. Do you have the valuation from the insurance company, the total loss statement? She hands it over, $4,800. I'm awarding the plaintiff the full $4,500 she's asking for. And Derek, let me tell you something. You're young. You think you can just drift through life breaking things and letting other people pick up the pieces? But the bill always comes due. Today, the bill is $4,500. Tomorrow, it'll be your reputation. You better find a job, any job, and start paying your sister $10 a week if that's all you have. Because if you don't, this judgment will sit on your credit like a lead weight until the day you die. I sign the paper. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done. Vanessa, next time he needs a favor, give him a bus pass. They walk out, Derek looking annoyed, Vanessa looking like she's finally done with him. I hope she is. You can't fix family with a check, but you can certainly stop the bleeding. I sit back. I'm 3,000 words into this day, and the air in the courtroom is getting heavy. The next file is case 417. A dry cleaning dispute? No, I did that one. This is a stolen identity within a marriage? No, wait. It's a bridesmaid suing a bride. Lord. Bridesmaids, the only group of people more dramatic than roommates and ghost hunters. Bird, I whisper. Is this the one with the ugly dress? Worse, Judge Bird says, leaning in. It's about a bachelorette party in Mexico. I close my eyes for a second. Mexico, tequila, hurt feelings, and a $3,000 bill for a villa that someone forgot to pay for. I can already hear the screeching. Bring them in, I say, and tell the court reporter to get a fresh pot of coffee. We're going to be here a while. In walk two women in their late 20s. One is wearing a bride-to-be sash, which she clearly wore just to irritate the other girl, and the other is holding a stack of color-coded spreadsheets. This is Chloe and Megan, the bride. Miss Chloe, I begin. You're suing Megan for $3,200. You claim you put the entire deposit for a luxury villa in Tulum on your credit card, and the other 5 bridesmaids, including the bride, refused to reimburse you after the trip was canceled. Megan, you say you don't owe her anything because the trip was canceled due to Chloe's bad planning. It wasn't bad planning. Chloe screams. There was a hurricane, a literal hurricane, Your Honor. I don't care if it was a plague of locusts. I snap. Did you have travel insurance? No. Did you have a contract that said the bridesmaids would reimburse you regardless of whether the trip happened? We had a group chat, Chloe says, as if that's a legal document. I feel the familiar urge to bang my head against the bench. A group chat. Bird, give me the group chat. I want to see the law of the Tulum Bachelorette. I scroll through the messages. It's a nightmare. Hundreds of emojis, arguments over which swimsuits to wear, and then the fateful message from Chloe. Hey girls, I'm putting the villa on my card to lock it in. Everyone owes me $600 by next week. And the replies, oh, yay, perfect, love you. Megan, I say, looking at the bride, you said, yay. In my world, yay to a request for money is an agreement to pay. Why didn't you pay her? Because we never went, Megan says, flipping her hair. The villa wouldn't give us a refund because Chloe didn't read the fine print about hurricane season. Why should I pay $600 for a tan I never got? Because you agreed to it, I roar. She acted as your agent. She put up the money so you wouldn't lose the reservation. The fact that Mother Nature intervened doesn't mean Chloe has to eat the entire bill for 6 people. You each took a risk. The risk was that you'd lose your deposit. You lost it. Now, pay up. But I'm the bride, Megan says, as if that grants her diplomatic immunity. I don't care if you're the Queen of Sheba. Being a bride means you're getting married. It doesn't mean you're exempt from the basic rules of debt. You and the other 4 girls owe Chloe her money back. You made a contract in that group chat, and a hurricane doesn't blow away a legal obligation. I look at Chloe. I'm giving you a judgment against Megan for her portion, the $600. As for the other girls, they aren't here. You'll have to sue them individually, or better yet, find better friends who don't leave you holding the bag when it rains. I sign the judgment, $600. And Megan, take that sash off. You're in a courtroom, not a strip club. Next case. I'm exhausted, but the truth doesn't sleep, and neither do I. We've got more stories to finish, more lies to uncover, and more common sense to beat into the heads of the public. Bird, next file, and make it something that doesn't involve a group chat. I think I've had enough omoj for one lifetime. I watch the bride storm out, her sash trailing behind her like a white flag of surrender. Good riddance. If she spends as much time on her marriage as she did on avoiding a $600 debt, she'll be back in a divorce court before the thank you notes are printed. I take another sip of water. It's lukewarm. Everything in this building is slightly off the temperature, the lighting, and especially the stories I hear. Bird, next case. And please, let it be someone who has a job that doesn't involve social media. Bird looks at the folder and winces. Case 418, Your Honor. Brittany Street James versus Jax Miller. It's about a destroyed designer gown and a stolen ring light. I drop my head onto my hand. A ring light. Of course. Bring in the content creators so I can tell them to get a life. In walks Brittany. She's wearing oversized sunglasses indoors, strike one, and a tracksuit that probably costs more than my first car. Following her is Jax, a young man with bleached hair and a camera bag slung over his shoulder. He looks like he hasn't slept since 2019. Miss Street James, I start pointing at her face. Take the glasses off. I can't see if you're lying if I can't see your eyes. And unless you have a medical condition that makes you sensitive to fluorescent justice, they have no business on your nose. She slides them up onto her head. Sorry, Judge, I'm just really stressed. My brand is literally falling apart because of him. Your brand is not my concern. Your bank account and the law are. You're suing Mr. Miller for $5,000. You claim he ruined a $3,000 vintage Versace gown during a photo shoot and then walked off with your professional lighting equipment. Mr. Miller, you're countersuing for $3,000 in unpaid labor. Let's start with the dress. Brittany, show me the damage. She pulls a garment bag out and unzips it. It's a gold sequin dress, or it used to be. Now it looks like it was dragged through a briar patch. There are huge rips in the silk lining, and several rows of sequins are missing. He told me to climb a fence, she shrieks. He said the aesthetic required me to be on the other side of a barbed wire fence at an abandoned train yard. I look at Jax. Did you tell her to climb a barbed wire fence in a vintage Versace gown? Judge Jax says, sounding exhausted. She wanted the Urban Decay look. I told her it was dangerous. I told her the dress was too tight for acrobatics. She said, and I quote, "Do it for the gram, Jax." So she climbed. She got stuck. I had to cut her out with a pair of wire snips. I look back at Brittany. You climbed a fence in a $3,000 dress to take a picture for people you don't know on the internet? It was for my followers. Your followers aren't paying for this dress, are they? You are. Or rather, you're trying to make Jax pay for it. Tell me, do you have a receipt for this Versace? She hesitates. I bought it at a high-end consignment shop in West Hollywood. Show me the receipt. Bird brings me a crumpled piece of paper. I look at it. $500? Miss Street James, I say, my voice dripping with sarcasm. You told me this was a $3,000 dress. This receipt says $500. Were you lying then, or are you lying now? Well, its resale value on some sites is $3,000. I don't care about some sites. I care about what you paid. You can't sue for a profit in a small claims court. You sue for your loss. And your loss is $500 if, and that's a big if, Jax is responsible. But let me ask you this. Who decided to put the dress on the fence? You or him? He's the photographer. He's the director. He's a guy with a camera. He's not your legal guardian. You're a grown woman. If someone tells you to jump off a bridge to get a good photo, do you do it? You saw the fence. You saw the wire. You chose to climb it. That's called assumption of the risk. You knew it was a bad idea. You did it anyway, and now you want him to pay for your stupidity. Not happening. The claim for the dress is dismissed. I turn to the ring light. Jax, did you take her light? I took it as collateral, Judge. She hasn't paid me for the last 4 shoots. She owes me $2,400. I told her she can have the light back when the check clears. You can't do that, I snap at him. You aren't a repo man. You can't just seize property because someone owes you money. That's called self-help, and it's illegal. You return the light today. Do you understand? Yes, Judge. Now, let's look at your countersuit for the $2,400. Do you have a contract? I have our DMs, Jax says. Bird brings the phone. I read through the messages. Hey, Jax, can we do a sunset shoot on Tuesday? Same rate as last time, $600? Sure, Brittany. Just make sure you pay me for the last one first. Totally. I'll Venmo you tonight. I look at Brittany. Did you Venmo him tonight? I had an issue with my account. For 4 months. You had an issue for 4 months that prevented you from paying the person who provides your livelihood. You're a deadbeat, Brittany. You want the glamour, you want the aesthetic, but you don't want to pay the bills. You owe this man for his time and his talent. But the photos weren't good because the dress was ripped, she argues. The dress was ripped because you're a bad mountain climber, not because he's a bad photographer. You used the photos, didn't you? Bird, check her Instagram. Bird pulls up her page on a tablet. She posted 10 photos from that shoot, Your Honor. They have 60,000 likes. 60,000 likes and $0 for the man who took them, I say, looking at her with total disgust. You're a fraud, Miss Street James. You're pretending to have a life you can't afford on the back of a working person. I turn to the judgment sheet. Judgment for the defendant, Jax Miller, on the counterclaim in the amount of $2,400. And Brittany, you return that ring light by 5 p.m. or I'll have Bird call the police and report it as a theft. We're done. And for heaven's sake, stay off the fences. I slam the gavel. They leave Jax looking relieved and Brittany looking like she's already filming a story about how mean I am. Let her. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to be right. I close the folder. Bird, tell me there's something normal next, something with a bill and a signature and no aesthetic. Bird looks at the final file. Last one, Judge, a contractor dispute, unfinished kitchen remodel. I lean back and smile. Thank God. A real problem. Bring them in. The final litigants walk in. Mr. Davis, a homeowner in his 50s, and Mr. Kowalski, a contractor who looks like he's seen a lot of drywall in his time. Mr. Davis, I say. You paid Mr. Kowalski $10,000 for a kitchen remodel. You say he walked off the job with the cabinets half hung. Mr. Kowalski, you say you stopped working because he kept changing the plans. Let's hear it. I listen to the back and forth. It's a standard dispute, but I'm looking for the moment the contract was breached. I dig through the change orders, the receipts for materials, and the timeline of the work. It takes 30 minutes, but eventually I find the truth. Kowalski didn't walk off because of the plans. He walked off because he took another bigger job and tried to squeeze Davis out. Mr. Kowalski, I say, looking at his logbooks. You started a job for a developer on the 12th. That's the same day you told Mr. Davis you had the flu. You didn't have the flu. You had a better offer. And you left this man with no sink and no stove for 3 weeks. I was going to come back, Kowalski protests. When? After the other job was done? After his holidays were ruined? You breached the contract. Mr. Davis had to hire someone else to finish the work at a higher emergency rate. You owe him the difference. I calculate the numbers. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. That's the cost of the completion minus the remaining balance on your contract. We are finished for the day. I hit the gavel one last time. The sound is final. The room begins to clear. I stand up, my joints stiff from sitting, but my mind is at peace. I walk out to my chambers. Bird is behind me. Good day, Judge, he says. A long day, Bird, I reply. But the truth is out there now, whether they like it or not. I take off my robe and hang it up. I look at the Patek Philippe watch case file sitting on my desk. I pick it up and hand it to my clerk. Make sure the police get the copies of Rossi's bank statements. I want that kid caught. Already on it, Judge. I walk out of the courthouse and into the cool evening air. The city is loud, full of people with secrets and schemes and broken promises. But for today, in my little corner of the world, things are a bit more balanced. I get into my car and start the engine. Tomorrow is another day, another set of liars, another set of victims, and I'll be there ready to sort through the trash to find the one thing that matters, the truth.